In the academic world, you're identified of the class you graduate with. Not in the National Football League. You are labeled and identified as you begin with the class that you begin with. And so today, on this edition of Defending the Kingdom, we introduce you to the Kansas City Chiefs class of 2025. And yes, we're excited about them. It's all brought to you by Ticketmaster, your friend all year long, whether it's during the season or during the non-playing season.
Holthus keeps it on an RPO at the 5, gets a lead block, he goes into the end zone near side, touchdown, Kansas City!
Hi everyone, I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. If you're not fired up at the beginning of this episode, we will get you that way by the time we are done. Because we are going to talk about the class of 2025. And by the way, the Irish Brigade, the co-commanders of the Irish Brigade are both West Point graduates. Their son, who was in the class of 26, next year he'll be a firstie, they call him, so he'll be in his senior year. But West Point, Annapolis, Air Force Academy, they'll identify you by your class. Class of, George Pickett was the class of blah, 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 blah. MacArthur, Eisenhower, class of 1912, I think. Well, in the NFL, you're the class of when you begin. So we know about the class of 2022 and how great they are, but the class of 2025, you and I are fired up about this group. Once the draft was over, and I just kind of looked back at it, going back to front, I got real excited. And I saw some parallels to the class of 22.
It's funny because, like, on draft night on Thursday, we're in this conference room, Mitch, I, and a few others, and we're so ready to go, so fired up, just like everyone else is. And then you get to Saturday, like middle of Saturday, and we're so tired. Like, you and I were both here so late every single day, but we're still going 100 miles an hour. And but there's no one here on Saturday except for the draft people. Like on Thursday and Friday, it's still a normal work day for accounting and finance and sponsorship and all the people that don't have a lot to do with the draft, and then we're there as well. But on Saturday, it's like a ghost town, except for, at least in the business level, except for like us and the production people and social media and graphics and all that. Not a lot of people. So anyway, you can kind of do whatever you want and be a little bit weirder than maybe you normally are in the office. And after we got, I think it was Jalen Royals, I was in my office at that point working on something, and I hear you down the hallway just going, yeah! So, yeah, we're fired up for this one. We'll talk about it.
I ran up and down the hallway on the Jalen Royals pick like it was 10 years old, and it was awesome. Before we jump into the class, and we'll start with the first-round pick, Josh Simmons, let's go around the world. What do you got?
So just two today because we have a lot to get to.
For Joshua Williams, Dustin Colquitt, let's see all the great number twos in Chiefs history.
Well, Dustin had it for a long time, didn't he?
Way to hog it for 15 years.
He deserves it, though. Shout out to Keith in Junction City, Oregon. You ever been to Junction City, Oregon?
I have not. Have you, when you did the Kaiser Volcanoes?
No, I'm not really familiar with Junction City.
Not Junction City, Kansas.
No, Oregon.
DJ Giddens, who now is an Indianapolis Colt.
Yep.
Not him.
No, not him. Junction City, Oregon. Never been there before, but we'll have to check it out. Shout out to you, Keith. And then, you know how people have
Sounds sea hockey. That's like real sea hockey country.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. You know how people have like Instagram accounts for their pets now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I heard from Jenny the cat. So I got a message on Instagram, and I thought it was from someone just named Jenny, but then I read the message and realized that this was a pet Instagram account, so I went into it, and Jenny the cat said they were a street cat from Denver, but they were adopted by a Chiefs fan and rescued from the dark side, and have seen the light. So shout out to you, Jenny, and of course your owner as well, and thank goodness Jenny the cat was saved from being a Broncos fan, you know? I've done the same for my wife. I know what this is like. Haven't fully converted her dad yet. I converted her mom, but I understand the struggle of converting a Broncos fan, even if it's a cat, and it can be done.
There's only 3 animals I would follow on Instagram.
Okay.
One, my daughter's cat from Botswana.
That's pretty impressive.
Bubs, yeah, goes nuts on tuna. They don't even have to open the tuna. You just like bring it into the room, and the cat just freaks out. All right. 2, my son and my granddaughters and my son's wife's dog, Lola. And, of course, I would follow her 24 hours with a camera, and that is Pip. That's it. Your dog, Pip.
And I appreciate that. Ellie created an Instagram account for Pip when we first got her, but kind of fell off the wagon. And Pip's been able to do a lot of cool things, and interact with people and do cool stuff. I wish we kept it going, but she stopped. I don't know why.
I do a lot of public speaking across the country, mostly in the Midwest. I'll take credit. It made Pip a little bit famous. People are like, people know who Pip is. We talk about the spirit of Pip.
We did that PSA for Iowa. Yeah, and she was like featured. I brought my dog into the studio, and this is a couple years ago. She had a little bit more energy then.
Yep.
I really didn't know how this was going to go. Just took my dog to work and took her into the studio, but she didn't like poop in the middle of the studio. There was no like total disaster, and it was a win. We have a great photo. It's in my office of you, me, and Pip. It's awesome. She had no idea all the great success she would help us achieve in the years that followed that.
It is in my corner of the closet, too, that I have here in the practice facility. It's up there prominent,
Yeah.
you, me, and Pip.
Yep.
Well, my daughter and her husband's cat goes nuts on catnip and tuna. We're going to go nuts on the 2025 class of Kansas City Chiefs. It'll start with the Chiefs' #1 draft pick, Josh Simmons, out of Ohio State. And we talked about him before. A little bit. We're going to hear from Josh in just a bit. He joined us in studio. But if he wasn't injured, this guy would have been probably the first left tackle taken off the board. He started out the 2024 season like a ball of fire. Had a good 23 season with Ohio State. And before that, a right tackle at San Diego State. Went to Madison High School in San Diego is where he played. Transferred later to Helix, but COVID knocked him out of playing for the Helix Highlanders, Alex Smith's alma mater. But this is a very skilled, large human being. You're going to hear from him in a second. But excitement to get Josh Simmons based on what it could be. We don't know exactly what we have right now because of the injury, the patellar tendon injury. But there is excitement in thinking that this guy could be a long-time Pro Bowl caliber left tackle.
So the draft, in my mind, is about three things. It's about adding really talented players to your team, obviously. It's about making your team better in terms of position groups that you might need some more depth at or maybe a future starter at. And maybe first and foremost, it's about value. You can't just take players at certain spots because you love them. You have to also work the board. When will these players be available and all of that? This is incredible value, getting Josh Simmons at 32 overall. You look just about anywhere. You look at Dane Brugler's draft guide, Matt Miller's draft guide, Pro Football Focus's draft guide, Daniel Jeremiah for NFL.com. Everyone agrees that this guy would have been a top 15 pick, maybe the top tackle off the board. And the only reason he fell to the Chiefs at the bottom of the first round is that knee injury. And I understand, there's no guarantees or stuff like that. But you trust your doctors, you trust your athletic training staff, and the Chiefs have the best in the business here in Kansas City, led by Rick Burkholder. And if they say, we believe in this guy, we think he'll be good to go, you trust it, you go with it, and you get incredible value at that spot. You get a player that allowed 1 sack on his last 600 pass blocking snaps at Ohio State, playing in the Big Ten. This isn't like a projection where he was at a small school facing, maybe smaller competition. He was facing the best of the best every single week, and he was the best out there, best player at his position. Before getting hurt last season, he allowed 1 quarterback hurry, no hits, no sacks. Quarterback was not touched when he was out there on 158 pass blocking snaps. Again, you get a player like this at 32 overall, it doesn't happen. I mean, we talked before the draft saying how it's very difficult to find your blue chip left tackle prospect because those guys go in the top 10, and the Chiefs are not picking in the top 10. The Chiefs have had no down years under Coach Reed. This is an incredible situation where this guy would have gone a lot higher. He fell to you because of a certain situation that was out of his control. He's attacked his rehab in the time since. He apparently nailed the whole interview process, all that stuff. And you get this guy at 32. I mean, hopefully, and I have a great feeling that we're going to look back on this 5 years from now and say, how did the Chiefs get Josh Simmons at 32 overall?
Incredibly athletic, terrific feet. In the Chiefs offense, they ask their linemen to move a lot. Their tackles, think of screens. And Simmons is excellent at it, either zone blocking. Now, maybe not the man blocking in the run. There's where the knock is on him, is the so-called anchor. But he also comes from a very athletic family. His dad played for the Baltimore Orioles and the Detroit Tigers. You look further, his uncle was Chris Fuamala. I used to do this, Fuamala, who was a longtime fullback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, played against us, right? And so the fact that he comes from bloodlines. He's been around it a little bit like Pat. So this is not new to him to be at this level. Matt and I had a chance to have Josh Simmons sitting right here, the Chiefs' #1 draft pick of the 2025 class. A big defending the kingdom welcome to Josh Simmons, our #1 first-round draft pick of this 2025 class. And first of all, welcome to the Chiefs' kingdom.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
When you got chosen, when you got the call, what was going through your mind?
A lot, like a little bit of everything. More surreal. Like I was telling people, I like chicken and pickles. Like you're waiting for your mom to kind of wake you up for school. Like it was one of those surreal moments. So I was just trying to take it all in and kind of still in the process of it.
This is funny for us because we've been doing podcasts talking about potential draft picks for like weeks and months now. And we've talked about you so many times. Now you're just sitting here with us and you're a Chief. What were the emotions like when you realized, like, I'm going to be blocking for Patrick Mahomes, of all people, to start your NFL career?
Yeah, like, so a lot of high expectations, so you got to, like, hit it really hard. Pat Mahomes is, like, the pinnacle of, throwing footballs right now and probably going to be, like, the future of it. So definitely having to, like, understand, like, you have a big task and a big assignment, and obviously there's a lot of vets in the room, so you just got to really just put your head down and work and, don't get in anybody's way.
And that being said, Josh, how much did the Ohio State experience and the SDSU experience, but at Ohio State, you were going into a program that had the expectation to win a national championship.
For sure.
So dealing with that every day, how much did that help you mentally and emotionally get you ready to try to be with a team that's won 3 Super Bowls and want to get another one?
Yeah, so I guess you're familiar. So college to NFL is like, I can't compare that, but I get the feeling of always having pressure and always having to chase, always getting better, and just always improving. So I know this is a team that's always improving. Pat's always improving. Trey Smith's always improving. Creed Humphrey's always improving. So just got to look up to those dudes and do it how they do it.
So you had an incredible first year at Ohio State. I scribbled this down. You allowed 1 sack on almost 500 pass blocking snaps in 2023, and you were off to an even better start last year. Like 1 quarterback hurry, like no hits, no sacks until you got hurt. How do you think you improved as a player between 2023 and 2024? Why were you off to such a great start?
I think it was just kind of some of the habits that I built. I'm not gonna be honest, I wasn't the best practice of them, but that off season, I definitely had you definitely like realize like, okay, let's every walkthrough rep, let's kind of go a little harder, or maybe put yourself in a game situation. That way, when you do go to practice, you're playing a lot harder, a lot better. You're kind of able to see things that you saw in the walkthrough, and then you just kind of take training that much more serious. Like a weight room, I think, should be anybody playing on the line, scrimmage, like second home. So you get stronger in that aspect, and I mean, only good things happen from there, I feel like.
Obviously, one of your strengths is your ability to move. And this offense is one that loves screens and having all 5 linemen move. Mm-hmm. How much did your experience at SDSU playing right tackle help you get ready for this? Because you played right tackle for the Aztecs and left tackle for Ohio State.
So you kind of get, I guess, you learn how to play everywhere. Like I'm not really, I can play left tackle, but I'm an offensive lineman. So if I even need to play left guard, right guard, whatever, I'll definitely do that because I know how to do that. But it definitely you kind of learn and have to adjust on the fly because playing right tackle to left tackle, it was a big adjustment. It's not as easy, I feel like people think. So you definitely have to kind of like drop it and like get to it. Definitely hone in on your craft.
So Brett Veach was explaining a little bit about all the work they did on you and a lot of Zoom calls. I understand it, a lot of interviews, and they interviewed you, I think, on Zoom a few days ago before the draft, and to see like how much you retained from some of the install they did like a month earlier. What do you remember about that call? Because clearly it went pretty well.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, like you said, it was a lot of recall and kind of like what they were kind of. Like they'd kind of walk through like some of the base pro stuff, and so like they're just kind of like remember what I told you here, what do you do here, and stuff like that, and then asking like where I'm at, am I in Green Bay, am I at home, just little stuff. It wasn't that long.
Culture's a big deal. It's been a huge deal with us to win 12 straight winning seasons, but there's a subculture that exists with offensive linemen, and you're going to be surrounded. You already mentioned Trey and Creed, but the fact that in that room, in that culture, how do you enhance that culture? How do you absorb that subculture of the O-line?
So for me, I just learn. I'm definitely picking brains. I have this first time being in the NFL, so I don't know exactly what to expect. All I can do is soak in information and soak in, kind of turn into like a little 10-year-old and kind of see what the grown-ups are doing and kind of follow their footsteps. Obviously, don't want to get in anybody's way, but definitely working hard in that aspect.
So you've only been here for like 48 hours, but what are you excited to do in Kansas City? What are you excited to learn about the city?
A lot of barbecue. I can tell you that. I think it was Q39, was it? Those burnt
That's one of them,
wings?
yep. There's a bunch of
It
them.
was probably the best wings I've ever had in my life. So
So you've already had some barbecue.
oh yeah,
Okay.
no doubt,
Off to a good start.
for sure.
Well, it's awesome to have you here. You seem to go to red places, like you just keep staying red, right?
Yeah.
So your wardrobe. But what do you look forward to the most as you get started? And we get started right away with rookie minicamp.
Just like you said, that tradition and that culture. This is second to none in the NFL. I think, playing in February and January is a testament to that. So, just getting accustomed to it, like just kind of reaching out to the players. They've been here, obviously. Like I said, Trey, Creed, those are like real dudes who probably the culture is oozing out of them. So, just kind of asking them, don't get in their way, but definitely like kind of learn. Time to learn now.
Chiefs Kingdom, get excited because Josh Simmons is adding to that offensive line room. So a lot to be excited. He's an engaging human. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And he's excited to be here, which I'm fired up about. It would be very easy for a player in his situation to kind of be moping about the fact that you fell to 32 overall. It's funny because we keep talking about this like a positive, but for him, I mean, he going into the season thought he was going to be the top tackle off the board, probably taken in the top 10, top 15, all that. And there's money lost there. But for him, he seems fired up. And he knows that this is the best situation for him, that it's not just one-sided where we're lucky that we got value with this guy. For him, he sees value in it as well, I think, that he's going to a Super Bowl contender that has an opportunity at left tackle for him to come in and compete and to maybe win that job. And it really, in so many ways, is a match made in heaven. If I told you this in February, that we're going to get this guy and he's going to be fired up to be here, and we can talk about OTAs and camp and going into the season saying that we've got this great problem here where we have a first-round draft pick in Josh Simmons and a player that we believe in as well, and Jalen Moore coming over from the 49ers. They're going to compete for that spot here over the next couple years. Just a big kind of change, I think, from even a few months ago.
The medical's the big issue. That's not a secret. But your point is a good one. The cooperation from Rick Burkholder and his athletic training staff, we talk about it ad nauseum, with the team doctors.
Oh, yeah.
And that's Paul Schreppel and his crew. I'm a big fan of those guys. And the scouts and the coaches. There has to be collaboration. Your dad is a prominent attorney and a proud graduate of the University of Missouri School of Law. I got accepted to 3 law schools, decided not to go. But if you and I were arguing the case for the Chiefs' collaboration and cooperation, it would be people's opinion versus Trey Smith. And we would go to that where a 6th-round pick, now redrafted, would be a 1st-round pick. Enough said. We move on because we feel like Josh Simmons, and there's a lot of opinion that he's going to be up and running a little quicker than we thought.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of thinking.
I'll say it. I thought it was going to be October of 25 before we even saw this guy.
I think a lot of us assumed it might be like a redshirt year situation. I am not getting that impression. I'm getting the impression that he is going to have a chance to be ready by training camp. I don't know what that means necessarily. I don't know if that means he's in pads on day 1 in training camp, but I think he's going to be doing things at training camp, and likely I think he'll have an opportunity to compete for that spot. I don't think this is a redshirt year by any means. I think he's going to have a chance to play. So I'm fired up to get to camp and to see what he can do. You kind of glazed over something just now, though. You got into law school?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, 3 different law schools.
So why didn't you do it?
Because I wanted to be sitting here with you.
Yeah,
if
okay.
I was in law school, I wouldn't be. I'd be out with your dad on some South American case.
I'm glad that it didn't work out.
Yeah, law clerk for 2 years, too.
Interesting.
Thanks
You learn
to
something new on DTK every week.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So decided not to go. Don't look at my LSAT score. It's okay to get in, but yeah, I wasn't going to be on a law review, I don't think. But anyway.
You would have been amazing at that, like closing statements and stuff. You would have been incredible. I'm glad you picked this line of work, but you would have been really good at that.
Yeah, you never get that far anymore, though. You always settle.
That's
so
true.
anyway, we
My dad
move on
agrees.
to our second case, which is the people of public opinion versus Omar Norman Lott, the defensive lineman, inside lineman from the University of Tennessee. Started actually at Arizona State University. Played for Herm Edwards, the former Chiefs head coach, at ASU for the Sun Devils, and played a lot, actually, at ASU. And then when ASU went through their issues, he transferred on to Tennessee. Interesting here because people, and I'll just be right there too, looking for where this pick was, of looking for a day 1 starter on the interior of the defensive line. Now, you hope that maybe Jerry Tillery becomes that guy, or the rotation, big hero rotation, because Norman Lott becomes a replacement for Turk Wharton. And if you watch his tape, they talk about his hands and his hands being so good and his one-gap penetration, his snap quickness. He was a boxer. Omar Norman Lott was a boxer, and you can see it in the way he uses his hands and how quick he is. Sometimes he get a little too quick because you'll get some penalties maybe, but jumping the snap count. But this is a one-gap penetrator and a pass rusher as an interior defensive lineman.
You mentioned his hands. I think he had the largest hands of any defensive tackle at the combine, which those things matter in the end. You know, I don't love saying rookies are replacements for players that get $20 million a year from another team, but that's kind of what we're saying here with Turk Wharton. What I'd amend it to a little bit is that I think Norman Lott is further along as a player than Turk was when he came in here as a rookie. And we were really impressed with Turk when he first came in. But Norman Lott did some really great things at Tennessee last year and throughout his career. But look at last year. He led all interior defenders in pass rush win rate and win percentage. He trailed only James Pierce, who got drafted in the first round, by the way, in terms of pressures on Tennessee, despite ranking 20th on the team in defensive snaps. So you might wonder, well, why wasn't he playing more? They had a heavy rotation at Tennessee with their defensive tackles. And if you think about like NIL now, you get like all these prospects that come in. You have to let all your players play. So it makes sense that he wasn't playing a ton. What matters is that when he was on the field, he was incredibly productive, like more productive than any defensive tackle in the nation. So you just look at the tape, you evaluate what you see when the player is on the field, and he's going to have a chance to come in here and kind of fill that void left by Turk, where you're that three-tech pass-rushing defensive tackle on passing downs. And he has shown during his college career, and especially last season, he can do that really, really well. And he's bigger than Turk. So Turk Wharton was a really good player for this team. I think kind of underappreciated throughout his career. But to go out and get a player like this, when I think this might have been like our biggest need, honestly, if you're going through the list of needs for the Chiefs, that defensive tackle you could put next to Chris Jones on passing downs, just to have some depth there and a guy that has some juice and some twitch. We got that player in Omar Norman Lott. And I look at a lot of different big boards because everyone kind of has different opinions. And I try not to get too much into the groupthink, which happens sometimes with these players. But Pro Football Focus had him as the number 4 defensive tackle on their board, behind only Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, and Kenneth Grant. And we got that guy. So I love this pick, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
Negative would say he didn't have that many snaps. You look at his pass percentage win rate of his snaps. But they're saying, well, that's not a lot of snaps. Well, again, it goes back to your rotation. One of the reasons the Chiefs have been elite on defense, really since 22, you look at 22, 23, and 24. We talk about the scoring defense, the rushing defense. A big reason is this rotation that the Chiefs have. In the NFL, it's nearly impossible to have Mike Dana, George Karlaftis, Felix Enudike-Uzama go right down the line. Now you get inside, you got Jerry Tillery, Chris Jones leads the way, Mike Pennell. You look at a 7 or 8 man rotation, this is where Norman Lott fits in, and it segues right into our next guy because Gelati is right there with the rest of them. So to get Ashton Gelati, another guy that has been an outstanding pass rusher, his 2023 was crazy with 11 sacks. And the sacks fell off in 24, but it wasn't a effort. I think he got more attention. His brother's an MMA fighter, and it shows because this guy plays football like he's doing mixed martial arts. And if you look at him, you're going, kind of reminds me of George Karlaftis. He works out with George Karlaftis.
Yeah.
These two guys know each other. And so this defensive line rotation of all the dudes that I mentioned, then throw in Norman Lott, you got another one right after that with Gelati.
So Gelati and George share a common college coach, a coach that was at Purdue with George, then was at Louisville last year with Gelati. And he linked them up. So well before any of this happened, George was reviewing Gelati's film and telling him, hey, this is how you need to get better. This is what you got to do. And being kind of like critical because that's what everyone needs, right? And saying, hey, this wasn't very good. You could do that better. And Gelati would text George, ask him thoughts on things. Hey, can you break this down? What do you know? They're now teammates. Everything I've gathered about Gelati is he is like a super, super high character guy, and he has a high motor. Like, he's going to give it everything he has. And that sounds a lot like someone else we know, George Karlaftis. So it's kind of like George is established. I don't want to say that, Gelati is going to be George. He has to go out there and earn it. But we might have drafted another George Karlaftis, and I think we'd certainly take that. I love his size. He's 6'3", 264 pounds. So he's a total Steve Spagnuolo edge rusher kind of prospect where he can play inside and outside just like George does from time to time. He's a Bruce Feldman freaks list guy, like athletic freak. If you look back at his Feldman's article, I think it was 2022, he talks about some of the crazy things that Gelati did to get on that list. And also, you mentioned the great production 2 years ago. He did. He had 14.5 tackles for loss, 11 sacks in 2023. Traditional numbers down a little bit last year, but the pressures created were actually higher last year than the year prior. He had 60 pressures created last year, 58 in 2023. So everything was there, just didn't necessarily have like the sacks, but the pressures were still happening.
Well, and again, the criticism here is looks like a sub guy. You did not get a starter. With the Chiefs and Spagnuolo, here's what we're going to try to tell you here, the fact that you have 8 starters. And that's what's crazy. I mean, you got Chris, who stands out, right? He's the elite inside defender now in the National Football League. But the other guys around him can play inside and outside, and they do a lot of different things. The other thing with Gelati would be developing more moves and counter moves. He'll have to do that. The red flag on him was, well, wait till he faces elite offensive tackles in the league. That's not going to work. He's going to have some other stuff. You can say that about every pass rusher in the college football.
Sure.
That's what Felix is learning. Felix has got some stuff, but now he's learning move 4, move 5, and that's where George, being big brother for Gelati, helps.
I remember when George first came out, and the whole rap on him was he was just a power rusher, just a bull rusher. He couldn't get around the edge. I think George proved those doubts wrong. I mean, George is one of the best young pass rushers in the NFL, consistent 8 to 10 sack guy every single year. And that's what Gelati could turn into. And he'll have opportunities here. And I'm with you, looking at just the edge rushers. So now you have Charles Minhu, you have Mike Dana, you have George Karlaftis, you have Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who, even though the volume stuff hasn't been there for Felix, like when he's been on the field, Felix has made some plays. And then you add Gelati in the mix now as well. You still have Malik Herring here, and you have those interior rushers. It's just really exciting. And this has been kind of the impetus, I think, of the offseason, is just getting better in the trenches on both sides. And with both Gelati and Norman Lott, we did that.
Long season. You don't want to grind guys into the ground. I know you're trying to win fantasy football with a guy, on sacks. But for the Kansas City Chiefs to run that long race with a bunch of different guys who all can play up front is one of the biggest assets the Kansas City Chiefs have had, and will have going into 2025. Another asset that they will have, well, let's put it this way. Cam Ward was the 1-1 pick of the 2025 draft for the Tennessee Titans. There was a pick 6 against him when they played Cal by the Chiefs pick in Noel Williams. And Noel, you talk about ball skills guy. Just listen to this. First of all, he loves to tackle. So see if this sounds like a corner that Spags would like. 203 total tackles. 134 of those are solos. 14 career interceptions. 7 last year. 4 scoop and scores and the pick 6. Oh, throw in an 80-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Now, he's a bigger, thicker. I don't think it's too far to give a comp here to a potential replacement over time to a Justin Reed.
Yeah.
He looks safety-ish with corner skills. He plays in the box. He obviously wants to tackle, which is a prerequisite for playing for Steve Spagnuolo and this defensive secondary group, but also has the ball skills. So here again is a guy, you talk about value in the draft, what incredible value it appears to get Noel Williams.
You know what's funny is I love late-night sporting events, like when Ellie's asleep and it's like 11:45 and I can't sleep and I can...
Like the Cornhole Championships?
So not so much like random stuff. It's
because
more
they have the NASCAR suits on, right, with all the sponsors.
I can't quite get into that. It's more like the sports that I love, but I'll parachute in as like a fan of a random team. Like last night, I stayed up until like 12:45 watching the Oilers and Kings playoff game because it went to overtime. I just decided I was going to root for the Oilers, and I watched it and then went to bed afterward. And who knows if I'll ever watch the Oilers again? But I'll do that sometimes. And I remember watching that. that Miami
Nothing
Cal
better
game.
though than playoff overtime hockey.
No, it's the best. It is the best. But
any second, any fraction of a second decides it.
But I stayed up till like 2 a.m. watching that Cal Miami game where Noah Williams picked off Cam Ward. I remember that. That's the only time I watched Miami or Cal all year long. I watched that game, and it's just funny that now Noah Williams is a Chief. I'm
Two
with
longtime ACC rivals, by the way.
How crazy is it? That's an ACC conference game. It's like a 6-hour flight. The game ended at it was like 12:45 Central Time. It was super late, and they had to fly all the way back to Miami. It's insane. But anyway, I mean, I'm super excited about Noah Williams for a bunch of reasons. You laid them all out. It's the length. If you look at this corner class, particularly kind of where they got Noah Williams, a lot of good corners, but it's a lot of nickels. And that's important, but it's players that are not going to play on the outside very much or have that safety versatility. It's guys that are going to play in the slot. Well, Noah Williams is, what were his numbers here? He's 6 foot tall, I think 200 pounds. With ball skills. So 7 interceptions, led the FBS last year. His 14 career picks were the second most of any player in this draft class. You mentioned the scoop and scores. He's durable, 50 career starts. All right, so he's not getting hurt very often. And the run defense really stands out to me that you talked about because so many times corners, especially corners like with ball skills that have a lot of interceptions, that's maybe all they care about. They're not super interested in defending the run. But wherever you look, whether it be Matt Miller, PFF, Dane Brugler, everyone talked about how he might have been the best run defending corner in this class. Like, he's an outstanding run defender. We asked him about that on his post-draft presser. He talked about how much he enjoys being a run defender. Like, every single play, it's not about, can I just get an interception here, or is the ball coming my way? Can I set the edge here? Or is the running back coming my way? Can I help my team in any way I can? That's a mindset thing that just a lot of corners don't have because they're playing that outside premium skill position. And that's a big deal. So Spags is going to love him. We know that. He also has a ton of special teams experience as well. So I think he'll fit in right away on special teams, and he gives you flexibility on the outside where if Trent McDuffie's playing inside more, now that Christian Fulton's here in town, you have Jalen Watson as well, you can mix him in the rotation too. That's just a really good group of long corners who make your defense better overall.
The secondary for the Chiefs in 2025 could be measurably better, and Noah Williams is part of that. The knock on him, not great straight-ahead speed, 4.5. But setting the edge, we think about that in the run game, which great that you brought that up. But the edge is also set in this era of football on bubble screens, tunnel screens. It cannot get outside. And the Chiefs corners have done, you go look at Jalen Watson, you go down to obviously Trent McDuffie, but Joshua Williams, even Charvarius Ward back in the day, where you lock in, you cannot let that play get outside. The Chiefs are the best team in this league at defending those kind of plays because their corners are physical, they're willing to make plays like that, and they get to the outside. It's even the strip play in Germany of Tyreek Hill. It's a play, it's a perimeter play, a quick route, but you cannot let that play get outside. If your corner is physical enough to hold the edge, then somebody can come in and rip the ball out. And then your safeties and backers come to fill. That's what this kid can do, and he does it in his sleep. Now we go to Saturday. Now we go where everybody's gone, right? Except the scouts and Bird and their and Social and the 65 TPT crew. And Jalen Royals of Utah State, the Fighting Aggies from Logan, Utah, becomes a Kansas City Chief. I whooped and ran down and started. I came in and saw you guys so fired up. And this guy, to me, is a Juju Smith-Schuster lookalike. Now, let's jump into what's not so obvious about him. Why did he get to Utah State? He was a 0-star recruit.
You love this.
I love this. He goes to Georgia Military. He was a point guard. So in the summer, guys that want to get to the NFL go to all these camps, right? Colleges have their own combines. So it might be a shoe company, might be a regional, but whatever. And they go to camps to get on the circuit, start to be looked at. He didn't do any of that. He's playing AAU basketball as a point guard. This guy could have been a Division I or high Division II basketball player. Think about Pat Mahomes. The reason he wasn't highly recruited was the fact that not only was he a baseball prospect, he could have been a Division I basketball point guard. Okay, this kid goes under the radar. Goes to Georgia Military Institute Junior College, right? I said he was in formation, not single back formation, literal formation, with somebody yelling at him. All right, shows up at Utah State and blows up. So Here he is. The year he had in 23 was crazy. The only FBS wide receiver with 70-plus catches, 15 touchdowns, 75 first downs this dude picked up.
Man.
And he stayed loyal to Utah State. He stayed there 2 years, and he was going to have another. He gets hurt 7 games into this last year at Utah State. I cannot wait to meet this kid. I cannot wait to talk to him. He's got IQ. He's got toughness. Looks like Juju Smith-Schuster. But I've often said this, and I'm fired up. You can tell. I like my linemen to be wrestlers.
Yeah.
Creed Humphrey. If you got a stud athlete who was a stud high school wrestler, love it. Offensive and defensive line, footwork, leverage, move, counter move, hand placement. I love my wide receivers and quarterbacks to be point guards in basketball. And that's what this kid is. I'm fired up about it.
No, I am too. It might be my favorite pick of the draft. Again, crazy value here. Look at the big boards. Like Pro Football Focus had him as the 60 overall player. Dane Brugler had him as the 63 overall player. We get him at 133. And he's not just a flash-in-the-pan guy. Like that 2023 season gets a lot of attention. But I think he was off to an even better start last year. He was 4th in the FBS in receiving yards per game through 7 games when he got injured, then missed the final 5 with the foot injury. Maybe the foot injury is why he fell. I don't know. But his production was crazy when he was on the field. And the Juju comp is good because he's kind of like this stocky, physical receiver. But he's not just like possession guy that catches the ball and contorts his body and that's all you get. He's like a big play machine. I mean, he had 10 catches of 50 or more yards over the last 2 years, most of any player in the FBS. Nobody had more than this guy. He has good speed. He runs a 4.42. Like that's good speed for his size, but it's his ability to make defenders miss, like in space, that makes him so special. And that's what Juju was so great at early in his career and still is. 17 forced missed tackles last year. That was 8th among all receivers in the FBS prior to getting injured, and he averaged 8 yards after the catch. Watch this guy's highlights. Like, it's endless of him just making players miss in the open field. He reminds me a lot of Rasheed as well, where he kind of turns into a running back when he has the ball in his hands. He's stocky and physical, but also elusive at the same time. I just think Coach Reed's going to love this guy. Like stuff behind the line of scrimmage for sure, but also quick slants, 10 yards down the field. He'll make a guy miss and break it off for a big play. So you add a player like this to a group that already includes Rashee Rice, who will be healthy. Xavier Worthy, obviously had a great season last year. Hollywood Brown, going to be healthy and have a full season now with the Chiefs. And Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, that's a really, really good group of receivers. And compared to what we had this time last year going into the draft, I mean, this has just been a revelation, I think. So we're hoping to see more firepower and more explosiveness from the offense this year. I think we're going to get it because of the guys that we're getting back from injury. And then you throw this guy in the mix, just really fired up about it.
I've talked about the door hinge receiver. I learned that in Coach Reed's first year here back in 2013, how important they are. We'll save that for a whole other episode. But this guy could be your door hinge receiver and become so vital to this football team. All right. Then it goes Saturday just as a spectacular day to me. You talk about value, immediate impact, and then Jeffrey Bassa. I think it's Bassa or Bassa. But this guy, what he did at Oregon reminds you. And by the way, going back to Royals, his high school was Evan Ingram's high school. It was Bradley Chubb's high school.
Wow.
So there's dudes that come out of Jalen Royals' high school. And you Royals fans wanting to wear Royals 85. Stay tuned on that. We'll see.
Can't get him 15, but no. maybe 85.
And 69, the first year of Royals' existence, doesn't work because that's ineligible. All right, but 85 would be kind of fun.
It would be. You know, I asked him on his post-draft Zoom call, I was like, are you a baseball fan at all? And he's like, I'm trying to get more into baseball. And I'm like, are you aware of what the team's name is in Kansas City? And he is aware. So there's like a marketing opportunity there that I think he should take advantage of.
How quick before he throws out the first pitch at a Royals game?
The Royals already tweeted about it. Like immediately, they're like, that's a great pick. I mean, how funny is it? I remember like studying all the receivers and seeing him, and the thought crossed my mind, how funny would that be if he ended up here? And of course, it just works out that way.
Be like the Royals taking a pitcher named Ralph Chiefs.
Yeah, right?
Or Chief Bender or some of those, yeah.
So now, he'll have to go get a Royals jersey.
Oh.
Royals, and then, of course, his jersey is going to say Chiefs Royals. I just feel like, especially if it was 85, a lot of people are going to buy this jersey, and if he's as good as that we think he's going to be, even more will buy it.
Love it. And love the Oregon linebacker, Jeffrey Bass. If you look at him now, a couple things. You have to go be on the obvious with all these guys. We got an MMA fighter. We got a boxer. We've got a point guard. And this one is a guy who started as a safety. In fact, he came to Oregon as a safety. To me, you're looking at there's a little bit of Willie Gay Jr. in him because it looks like the open field kind of linebacker safety combo. But then you look at what he did, 4 years of special teams at Oregon, 4 years. So when he became like mainline starting dude for the Ducks, he didn't come off special teams. He was awesome, and his play speed is off the charts. But what he did was in the Senior Bowl was ran the huddle for the national team. So now you start to think green dot guy. And he was essentially, we know about Nick Bolton and what he does as the green dot for the Kansas City Chiefs, the traffic cop, air traffic controller. That's what Jeffrey did for the Oregon Ducks. And so you bring that into play with a guy that looks like he can play Will, maybe some Mike, special teams, open field, hybrid safety, total Spags guy, but this looks like a Dave Tobe guy from day one.
I get like college valedictorian vibes from this guy. He's really, really smart, and you can tell it's when you talk to him. And all of the coaches, if you read like the draft guides, they just rave about him. I mean, this guy is super intelligent and is capable of handling a lot of information and data coming in. And that's why him being the green dot at Oregon is so useful because it's really hard to do that. Like the green dot is the quarterback of the defense. Like here in Kansas City, it's Nick Bolton, and he's the one that's relaying everything to everyone on the field in like an instant. And that's what Jeffrey Bassa did at Oregon, a big-time program playing a lot of big-time games every single week, and he was the guy in the middle of the defense calling the whole thing, and that's really difficult to do. His first game ever at linebacker was against C.J. Stroud in Ohio State when he was asked, because of injuries at the linebacker position, can you move from safety to linebacker? And how cool is it that he was like, no problem, sure, I'll do it. He played safety his whole life, was recruited as a safety, going to be a safety at Oregon, got asked to move to linebacker, and he said, yeah, I'll do it to help the team. And what do you know? He ended up being really good at it, super consistent, had at least 45 tackles in all 4 seasons at Oregon. You mentioned the special teams experience, and how cool is it that your green dot is playing on special teams? How many major programs is there green dot playing on special teams and kick coverage and stuff like that? Like, he just kind of says the kind of guy that he is. He wants to help the team any way that he can. And to me, he reminds me a lot of Drew Tranquill, because Tranquill was a safety at Notre Dame, moved to linebacker, kind of that hybrid coverage kind of guy. That's what Bassa is. But Drew also can wear the green dot. I mean, when Nick was hurt a couple years ago, Drew was our green dot, and Bassa's the same kind of player. So if you're looking for kind of a comp, to me, it's Drew Tranquill. And yeah, Willie Gay is a great one as well, where super athletic coverage guy can get out there and cover. And I'm excited about this because you can never have enough of these guys. He's going to help us on special teams and also just makes that linebacker room even deeper with another player who, God forbid, if you had a bunch of injuries, is capable of going out there, handling all the bullets flying and the data, and can call a defense. Not an easy thing to do, and we might have gotten another one here in Jeffrey Bassa.
We talk about the defensive line rotation. Think of the linebacker room now. This guy walks in with Tranquill and Leo Chanel and Nick Bolton and Jack Cochran. You go right down the line. I mean, it's a really, really good linebacker room. And I think special teams could be appreciably better next year, not only because of him, because of others. And then the last pick. Going into the draft, I was hoping to get it start. You know how third down backs, man. I've just on third down.
I can't believe this is real, what you're about to say.
So I'm thinking we haven't got the third down back. Now we're nearing the end of the draft, right? And so, we have a guy that works in graphic arts here named Jordan Giesler. Mm-hmm. A year ago, he came in. We're nerding out and all this stuff. He goes, I'm going to tell you the guy that I like, and it's Carson Steele. I go, he looks like the Jungle Law guy, right? He's got the whole hair. He's sure he's not on Survivor or something. And we end up taking him.
He was like 350th on PFF's big board.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jordan, I just don't know.
And Jordan's like, this is my guy. This is my guy. I go, Ball State? Yeah, Ball State, UCLA. This year, it was Rashard Smith of SMU. And this is about a week and a half before the draft. He goes, this is my guy. This is my guy. So we've looked at him, but it made me go back and look, look more at this guy who was a wide receiver at Miami, and then transferred to SMU. SMU then said, we're going to make you a running back. In fact, their quote was, we're going to make you the SMU version of Isaiah Pacheco. Brashard Smith, though, well, let's go back to what I said. I was wanting a starting defensive, like day one player. Well, okay, think of the rotation here. We got that covered. Third down back. Pirine leaves us, goes to Cincinnati. Who's the younger version of Jerick McKinnon? And I cannot wait to watch Brashard Smith, because when I've mentioned that to different people, they've all nodded to the affirmative. And the fact that this guy, yes, his crazy production in 2025, he ran the ball 235 times, 1,332 yards, 6 yards a carry essentially. Then he threw in 14 rushing touchdowns. Oh, let's add 39 receptions for 327 yards. All-purpose yardage, he was fourth in FBS. All-purpose. Oh, let's see. Janty's first. Yeah, okay. I know he's going to the Raiders. Scatabo of Arizona State goes second.
Yep.
Third was Hampton.
He goes to the Chargers.
Goes to the Chargers, the division. This kid was fourth.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Crazy production. And when you watch the video, this could be Jerick McKinnon coming out of SMU.
So I know the Monday after the draft, you look at every single player and you say, this guy is amazing. How'd this guy fall to us? All that. I can't believe that we got this guy in the 7th round. Just flip on his tape. It's super just electric. I mean, with the ball in his hands, when he has an opportunity, he is electric. He has 4.39 speed. He had the third fastest 40 time of any running back at the combine. You mentioned the ridiculous production. I mean, nearly 2,000 yards between rushing, receiving, and kick return yards. 19 plays of 20 or more yards last year. That was in the top 5 among all running backs. And so on one end, he's a former receiver, like you said, and you can tell, like when he goes up to attack the ball, he attacks it like a receiver. Sometimes with running backs, it can be kind of awkward if they didn't do a lot of that, like in high school or college. But with him, he runs routes and attacks the ball in the air like a receiver. But a lot of times, if you have this conversion where you have a receiver go to running back, they're kind of like a fish out of water as a runner. He's not. Like, he has, like, contact balance. He's bouncing off defenders. I mean, he had 18 total touchdowns last year.
One-cut ability?
Yeah.
It's like he's done it all his life.
He'll make a guy miss. It's incredible. But also, like, at least in college, between the tackles, he was getting tough yards, like moving the pile, like getting the ball on the 2-yard line and punching it in for a touchdown. There's a lot of potential here with this guy, and that's why he reminds me so much of Jerick, because Jerick was not the biggest player, but he played way bigger than he actually was. Jerick was a great pass blocker. Like, he would run through defenders twice his size, and, I mean, that's a really lofty comp. Like, Brashard will have to work to be a Jerick McKinnon in this league, but it's just impossible not to watch his tape and think, that is Jerick McKinnon. And to add a player like this to our offense, we know how valuable and how effective Jerick was. Like, in the screen game in the red zone, this guy is perfect for that kind of thing. So, and also the new kickoff rule, like how the kickoff is being moved to the 35 now. There's going to be a lot more kickoffs, and he has a ton of experience handling kickoffs in college. If you put a 4.39 guy back there who can make players miss, he has contact balance, he's perfect to handle kickoff duties. So he'll have to earn that role, but just, I mean, Brashard Smith, getting him in the 7th round. I think you let out a yeah in the hallway after this one, too.
Saturday was just a hallway.
I couldn't believe we got him.
Around
I couldn't believe, because we had talked about it all week. God. Like this guy's available, because everyone was talking about like the top 5 or 6 running backs, like the Caleb Johnsons and the Scataboos and all these players. And yeah, those guys would be great. But I kept thinking, like, that guy Jordan showed us, Brashard Smith, like, he would be a lot of fun and he would fit Coach Reed's offense. And we got to the 7th round. I guess I just kind of forgot. And when we took him, I was like, I cannot believe we got him. He's a Chief. Jordan's 2 for 2.
In this kickoff return ability, he averaged 25 yards on per attempt over his college career in kickoff returns, including a 98-yard touchdown on a kickoff return. And you mentioned the 4.39 speed. So you're getting a lot with this guy. Super excited about him. It's always key. We talk about how versatile people are within the organization, right? So when you get a graphic artist and a graphic designer who can pick your players, that this is my guy, you and I are going to go to him next year about 2 months before the draft and go, now who you got?
He has a reputation to uphold.
Yeah.
So he has to do it.
Way to go, Jordan. You're a very talented dude, but, man, you've now picked 2 running backs in 2 straight years in this guy. But Rashard Smith completes it. So overall, this class, and we're going to watch him now, it starts right away. This week, as you'll see this posted, this week becomes rookie minicamp. A lot of tryout guys, undrafted free agents. We'll get into all that in episodes coming up ahead. But this class, the class of 25, really anxious to see him.
Yeah, and listen, we're very excited about it, but the reality is the grade is incomplete. I mean, they have to go out there and play. We think all these players are going to help us, and we're very excited about the value and the talent that we brought in here, but they have to go out there and play, and we won't know how good this class was for a couple of years. But one thing I do from time to time is I go back and look at our episode in 2022 called The Base 10, and it was basically what we're doing right now, immediately after the 2022 draft class. And we all know how transformative that class was. We don't win back-to-back Super Bowls. We don't go to 3 Super Bowls in a row without that draft class. And it's fun to go back and listen to what we were saying about those players and the potential that they could achieve here in Kansas City. Talking about, hey, I think Trent McDuffie can be one of the best corners in football. Here's why. I think George Karlaftis is going to help our defensive line. Here's why. I think Isaiah Pacheco could help this team. Jalen Watson can help this team. I love his length. All that stuff. And it turns out that all worked out perfectly for the Chiefs. And I'm as fired up about a draft class, about this one. I'm as fired up about this class as I was about that one back in 2022. And again, they have to go out there and earn it and prove it. But hopefully in a couple of years, we're looking back at this episode and saying, man, that class really changed everything.
We know about the Base 10 system, right? We all use it. The Base 10 draft class of 2022 brought us 2 Super Bowl championships. The biblical number for perfection is 7. There's 7 in this group. Maybe a couple years from now, we'll look back and say this was a perfect pick. But just know this, you graduate from high school or college or graduate from West Point, you're identified as the class in which you ended. In the NFL, you're identified as in the class of where you begin. And we like the beginning of this class of 2025.